Hey, hello, welcome into the Junior and Senior Nothing But Sports podcast. Today, at least for this episode, I'm going to be breaking down what happened over the college football weekend in week 4. And I will probably be doing an NFL episode later on today and discuss what has happened thus far before these two Monday night games get going. As far as the college football weekend goes, record-wise, I think I had a pretty good weekend. Um, it honestly was a wild weekend. Stanford goes into Syracuse and does a great job and gets the victory on the road in their first road ACC game. And Illinois, in the first ranked matchup they've had in a very long time, goes down to Nebraska, gets a huge victory against Big Red, and Washington State survives what was probably the wildest game of the year in overtime against San Jose State. So a pretty wild weekend of college football. There were some really crazy games, but you expect that every week, obviously. With so many games going on, no one really knows who's who, especially early on into this season. And I think that, at least for Washington State, what they have been able to do to continue to be undefeated so far and to find themselves in a situation to where they're winning games and they're winning in different ways because really when Texas Tech came down to Palouse, they really shut down that offense for the most part, and they were able to run their offense pretty smoothly. And to this point, their defense has been, relatively fine. But San Jose State's got some guys, got some receivers on that squad who can play, and Nash being one of those guys. And their quarterback's not that bad either, so you figured that their offense would uh, make it a battle down there in Pullman. So respect to San Jose State, and then they could be a contender in the Mountain West going forward, especially with that offense. Obviously, their defense is not very good, but offensively, they can put up numbers, especially with a team like Boise State that is now ranked 25th in the polling AP wise. So I think that that's an important thing to be able to put points up on the board no matter where you're at, and they were able to do that. So you give them all the credit in the world for being able to put up the amount of points that they were able to put up, and even in overtime with a chance to win, they at least gave themselves a chance to win with that offense. So, good showing for San Jose State. Again, Washington State to be able to pull this game out with the offense and with the level of determination by their coach, who is probably one of the better as far as motivation and spirit and will goes. He's probably one of the better coaches in college football. So, Jake Dickert, congratulations on a wild win. And sometimes you have to win games that are wild. It it doesn't mean anything for you to just run over people all season because eventually, much like Georgia found out, you're going to face a team that's not going to play, and that's going to come with everything, with all the intangibles, offensively and defensively, special teams wise, coaching wise, fans wise. They're going to come with everything, and you got to be able to match it. And for Washington State, again, they're in a conference with them and Oregon State, and what you don't, they're going to play each other at the end of the season, but they've got a little agreement with the Mountain West, so they're going to play a lot of Mountain West teams, including teams like Boise and UNLV, who look to be the cream of the crop right now in the Mountain West. But I think for Washington State, having that agreement, much like Notre Dame has the ACC, they can put themselves in a very good position once it's time for the college football playoff rankings to start. If they can win, they're going to have to beat Boise State and UNLV, obviously, but you win those two games, and as it stands, Boise is ranked. You're going to put yourself in a good position because UNLV's got 2 wins against Big 12 teams on the road, so they've already put themselves in a good position. Why they're not ranked over Boise at 25 is a little ridiculous, but again, what you see oftentimes with media and pollsters and things of that nature is the narrative gets set in and gets put in place. And anything that goes against that narrative until it's overwhelming is considered to be bad. UNLV right now is a team that has proven themselves to go on the road and get the job done. Boise State has played well. They have Ashton Jenney at running back, who could be a Heisman contender. But at the end of the day, they haven't. They lost to Oregon in a game that they really could have won on the road. They would have been ranked if they would have done that, but they didn't do it. You saw UNLV go on the road to Kansas, open the season on the road at Houston, and run over Houston. Just run them over under new coach Willie Fritz down there in Houston. So again, it's a narrative thing. They came in preseason favorites to represent the playoff. Most analysts and pundits have them going to the playoff. So what happens is when you don't meet those expectations, you make excuses and you try to fill that void anyway. They haven't played anybody other than Oregon, and they lost. So I just again, you get points for playing the game and playing it close and doing what you're supposed to do because Oregon's supposed to win that game. But we saw UNLV again, two Big 12 teams on the road, and take care of business. So I just don't understand. They beat Portland State for crying out loud of what Boise State did, and that deserves a ranking over a team in UNLV that's gone on the road twice, and they didn't cough up the victory. They won the games, and one of them in a dominant fashion. So again, that's puzzling to me. But it's fine. It's fine. I think that people don't quite understand the level that it takes to win those type of games, especially when you're a group of 5 opponent. And they've actually done it twice against Power 4 teams in Boise State again. Played a great game against Oregon, but they lost the game. So the fact that they have them ranked over UNLV is obviously laughable. But that will work itself out eventually because BYU, or not BYU, but Washington State, I think these two teams are going to play this season. UNLV and Boise. I'd have to look at their schedule, but definitely I believe UNLV and Washington State have to play. So if that's the case, then we're going to have to see some, for me, marketable improvement for Boise because, again, you went on the road against Georgia Southern and your defense just let Georgia Southern do just about whatever they wanted to do. And you escaped with a victory, but that's concerning. And in the Oregon and Georgia Southern games on the road, your defense just gave up 30-plus points. And then you face a Portland State team that's not good, and, you take care of business like you're supposed to. But, again, they have met 25. Both these teams are going to have to play each other and have tests and be the Mountain West Championship or whatever the case. So it'll ultimately work itself out. But it's crazy how the narratives begin to play itself out, especially early, because it's going to matter in the end because of how they stack these things up. And it also helps Oregon that they're ranked now. So, that's fine. But, again, ridiculous. UNLV should at least be in the top 20 AP-wise. And I do think the College Football Playoff Committee, if both teams keep winning until they play each other, I think they will put UNLV above Boise just because of, again, they have key wins on the road, and Boise doesn't. So, but enough of that. The basic point is UNLV, as long as they keep playing the way they're playing under Barry Odom, they're going to be in the thick of that race. And they should be ranked already. But anyway, other than that, quick notes, Notre Dame beats Miami of Ohio. That game was, for some reason, when they play MAC teams, they just do not, for some reason, they can't seem to run them over. I don't know if that's because all these MAC teams are in the north with Notre Dame, they're in the area. Some of the guys that maybe didn't go to Notre Dame are there. I don't know what the case is, but they just cannot seem to just plow through these MAC teams or any Group of 5 team that they play for the most part at home. I don't know what it is because they went on the road against Purdue and made Purdue look less than normal almost. So that's an interesting thing uh, to look at. But again, they look fine, moved up in the polling. They have a lot of tougher tests ahead that people aren't talking about because I had this argument with my father about them being in a conference or not being in a conference and how good are they and this and that, and the narratives being set on them. And yeah, they were ranked high to begin the season. Um, and I thought, that may have been a look ahead, but again, we don't know a lot of these teams until pretty much halfway through the season. People keep forgetting that. So to just automatically assume out of nowhere that Notre Dame's schedule was easy and all this stuff, I think is ridiculous. They still got to play Georgia Tech, who's a relatively good team. You got Louisville coming up in a couple weeks, a team that just took care of business against Georgia Tech. I actually picked Georgia Tech to win that game, and it was a good game. But Louisville took care of business. And remember, Louisville did beat Notre Dame last year. So now they got to go into the Golden Dome and try to get a victory. But that'll be a ranked matchup, a top 20 matchup. So that's going to be interesting. I have to go see if that's October 12th because I know Notre Dame has Stanford this week, I believe, or next week, one of the two. So I have to see if that's on that October 12th. And again, that October 12th schedule is something we're going to have to dive deep into before we even get to it because that is a schedule that is going to be loaded with games. And it will probably be Judgment Day for a lot of action, a lot of teams before this college football playoff rankings start coming out. But so Notre Dame wins, takes care of business, but again, slow, rough against these these MAC teams. Georgia or not Georgia, Tennessee and Oklahoma. Oklahoma's defense is for real. Um, I've never seen the last time Tennessee's offense got slowed down like that. It was when they played Georgia a couple years ago on the road in Athens. That Oklahoma defense came to play. They did everything they could, but Oklahoma's offense for the first time in years looks awful. So much that they benched Jackson Arnold. And again, they had plenty of opportunities to win this game, put points on the board. You fumble after you get a turnover. You fumble and give it right back to them when you're inside your own red zone. You're not going to win games like that. And then they had to fumble backwards. There's just a lot of plays that even a regular Oklahoma team just doesn't make incompetent plays like that. So, again, you switch over from Lincoln Riley, who's an offensive coach, to Brent Venables, who's a defensive coach, and you get high offense with Riley, you get high defense with Venables. So the question is going to be, is he going to be able to recruit those guys who can make plays, and can he find a quarterback to distribute that ball to his playmakers? Because at the end of the day, Oklahoma does have some playmakers in Farouk and Burks and Nick Anderson was hurt. So they have playmakers on the team, but they got to find a quarterback to distribute that ball. And Jackson Arnold just hasn't been that guy thus far. And again, it only gets tougher for Oklahoma, the games that they have to play. You get Alabama and LSU. That's a tough draw. But you do get Alabama at home. You got to go to LSU, I believe, the last game of the season. And you have Red River still. So three key tough games you have to play. And again, not saying they can't win those games because of their defense. They definitely can. But they're going to have to find a way to get it going offensively. Tennessee looked great. Their defense looks really good. This is the best Tennessee defense I've seen in a very long time. And their offense, again, they played tough SEC defense. They looked human, and we've seen it happen before. So, and Tennessee still has a lot of tough tests ahead. So we'll see what they look like going forward, because it's, again, you play a Florida team that's not good, but they can't seem to ever beat Florida. So again, rivalry games are important, and you still got to play Georgia. You still have to play these teams. So it's gonna be, and I think you still have to play Alabama. So But I think Alabama comes to Neyland. So again, tough games all around. But if you can get the right defense to put this team in a hole, then again, that offense, or that Tennessee defense rather, is going to be in a compromising position of how long can they hold on. So Oklahoma's offense just could not get anything going on that defense of Tennessee. So we'll see what happens going forward. Oklahoma, again, you got Red River, a game that, unlike when Tennessee goes to Florida, they can't seem to beat Florida. Oklahoma or Tennessee or Texas can't seem to beat Oklahoma. So those are two games that if Oklahoma can beat Texas yet again in Red River, and then Florida can beat a team like Tennessee, where that always beats them, you're gonna have yourself a very interesting second half of the season, because again, people are gonna look past it and just say, "Oh, Texas has got it. Oh, Tennessee's got it." But we've said that the last couple of years when they've been top-notch teams, they have not been able to beat their rivals. So those games are important to watch out for. So we'll see what happens. But those are the two games you want to watch out for. I believe Red River is also on that October 12th date. So again, October 12th is going to be a very, very interesting game, or Saturday to watch out for. Other games, LSU, my Tigers. I will say it looked like we grew up a tad bit on defense. We didn't allow any points in the second half. We actually only allowed 17 in the first half, so it wasn't as bad as it looked. It just at times looked like we just are unfocused, and we can't seem to get. We can't. It looks like we're starting to get a little pressure with Swenson on the edge. And I just saw earlier that we lost Harold Perkins Jr., and that's not a good thing for us. But to be quite honest with you, the past two seasons, he really hasn't looked like the guy we saw his freshman year. So as much as it is a loss because he's one of the captains on that defense, he hasn't had the impact that he had his freshman season. And he was going to be drafted, and he probably still will be drafted in the first round, as he should, because he is a raw talent, but he just hasn't been put in positions to make a lot of good plays. They haven't done the things that they have used him in the first season. Maybe that's different defensive coordinators, which is fine, but at the end of the day, we have to start finding ways to move guys like Major Burns and Greg Penn and all these guys around and putting them in the best position. Because again, this is the same defensive roster as last year. We just paid a guy $2.5 million in Blake Baker to come in and do something different, and it hasn't been. It's been bad. Now, again, first half we gave up some big plays, but we held them to 17. The second half we allowed no points. So the defense, again, is UCLA, but when a team is playing that bad on one side of the ball, it's never about who they're playing. It's about how they are doing. So yes, UCLA's offense is not very good, but at the end of the day, it wasn't about the team UCLA that we were playing. It was about how do we fix what we can do better. Can we do to UCLA offensively or defensively what we're supposed to do to a team like Nicholls? Now, is UCLA's offense comparable to Nicholls? No, but this is a team we're supposed to be a lot better than. We saw Indiana go into Pasadena and blow the doors off of this team. Now, much like the NFL, college can be the same way. One week you get one team, the next week you get another team. They came in prepared and focused early on. After how embarrassing they looked last week, they came in more focused and ready to go. They had Eric Bieniemy calling the offense, and he was drawing up some really good plays. And again, sometimes you can't really do nothing about that. But this defense has to be more disciplined. Offensively, again, the penalties that we're racking up, the procedural penalties, man, are killing us, and it's putting our offense in compromising positions. And when you're in 3rd and 5 or longer, it's really hard to keep completing over and over and over again. It doesn't matter who your weapons are. You can't keep expecting your guys to come up with answers to the test when they keep covering the question. So again, procedural penalties back, and somehow this offense we keep getting it together. 36 on the road against South Carolina. We got it together against Nicholls, put up 40 piece, and then we put up a 30 and a half piece. So again, the offense is fine. It's just the procedural penalties that are killing us. And to be quite honest with you, Garrett Nussmeier, I got to have a talk with him because I believe at times this offensive line has actually protected him and played great. It's just in the run game they've been kind of sloppy, but they've really protected him well. It's just at times he has guys in front of his face that are open, and he is constantly, to me, looking for the big plays, looking for that Joe Burrow, that Jaden Daniels type of Heisman throw. It just, if it's not there, find your outlet, find your protection, find your dump off guy, or find somebody in the flat like a Mason Taylor who's got some of the best hands in college football, and do that. You don't need to find a 25, 30-yard play every single drive. You don't need to do that. It's not necessary. And I think that this team has the ability to go all the way, but you cannot do that if you're Nussmeier. I need to see marketable improvement from this game because that was a big thing for me as we're sitting here watching this game is that he's not taking the plays that are there. He's trying to go for the bomb every play, and that's just, again, this offense can be that. And you saw that touchdown pass he had, I believe it was Kyle Parker. I mean, you can't throw it any better than that. We saw Joe do it. We saw JD5 do it. And he can do it as well. The difference between him and those two quarterbacks is they could get on the move and they can make plays with their legs that Nussmeier, I haven't seen him really do yet. And I don't think he's that type of quarterback. He's prototypical Brady Manning like, where they like to stay in the pocket and work there, which is fine. But we don't have that old zone read type of plays where we can kick out and let Nussmeier go grab it. Not that he can't probably do that, but I don't think he has the speed or the wherewithal to make those type of plays. So now we have to get the running backs involved. And Caden Durham, this young man here, is arriving. He is arriving. And I think we need to start him and stop barely using him. Put him as a starter. Let's line up and challenge these linemen, even the young ones in the middle, to block for this young man and let him, because he looks like another Clyde Edwards-Helaire as far as his escapability and his lower level of gravity to the ground and how he's able to keep his balance is just amazing. You see a lot of guys slipping and falling and doing all this type of stuff. He's able to stay on his feet, bounce off tackles, break tackles, and find his way through the gaps that he's supposed to find. And again, he can catch out of the backfield and take it however far he needs to take it. So that's just something that you have to work more in the offense. And Josh Williams is a bell cow as well. But you put him behind Durham and you let him be the guy on 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, or whatever the case, 4th and 1 or whatever, and let him be the bell cow to go get that play and challenge the middle of this offensive line. Now, theoretically, when you've got two of the best tackles in all of football, in college football at least, you would like to run to the left, run to the right gap, and let them create. And I also think that's something that they're going to have to kind of change up and do a little more, is kind of run to those gaps and let those guys that are going to be top draft picks make the way for you. Instead of running up the middle of the line, which we keep continuing to do, it's not going to work because those guys are still young and raw and learning. And they're going to get better, and I think they have gotten better, especially in pass protection. But you got to let those guys go and try to ship and pull and try to get to your pros, your eventual pro linemen, and let them make plays. So, for my Tigers, again, we play South Alabama this week, a game that we will win. The question is, will we win by a lot? Will we run away with it in the second half like we did in this game and pretty much like the Nichols game? Or will we put our foot down and announce that our defense is better? I saw improvement in the second half of this UCLA game. Now let's go. Again, it's going to be a challenge because the South Alabama team is scoring 60-plus points in the last couple games. It doesn't matter if they're on the road or home. They have just been, I don't know, they found something. We can stop that momentum and get them to a 2-3 record, which would, halt their momentum. So they're going to come out here and try to put points on the board, much like Nichols did. The question is going to be, can this defense hold up, not have holding penalties, offense not have procedural penalties, and stop making crucial mistakes in times we don't need them. So that'll be the most important thing. But we get out of here with a win. We run away like we're supposed to. I never thought for a second we're going to lose this game because I just, UCLA doesn't have enough to force us into that position. But we mentally had to be strong uh, in the second half defensively, and we were. So I'll credit Blake Baker. But again, can we carry that momentum into our next couple games? Because October 12th, as I'm going to keep saying for the next couple weeks until we get to that weekend, you got Ole Miss coming to town, and we know what Lane Kiffin likes to do. The last 2 years we faced them, offensive game. The last time they came to us, we were down early, came back and ran them over. But they're going to come out hot. So this is one of those prep games before we get to there with the South Alabama offense, which is as might be as good as advertised, especially as good as Ole Miss offense is. So I think that will be a lot better of a chance to figure out how good this defense will play in that situation. And that'll be a good tell to see is this South Alabama offense. How can we control the defense? So, um, you know, we'll see what happens. But yeah, um, James Madison, North Carolina. It's kind of hard to talk about this game because pretty much everything you could expect to happen in a um, college football game happens. 70-50. James Madison. Been in this game a couple of years now. They've played North Carolina, and they've played them tough for the most part. But wow, North Carolina's got a problem at quarterback. When you've got 2 to 3 different quarterbacks playing, you have none. That's kind of the old saying. And man, they just have not been able to find themselves a quarterback. And this young man, um, he just really hasn't been very good. Um, he was just throwing passes and having turnovers that I just did not see coming at all. And, it's unfortunate, but it's going to be a long road, it seems, for this team. And for North Carolina, I think that the best thing for them is to start Colin Harrell because he didn't really play much in that game. He did have turnover, I believe, himself, but you've got to find a way to get your guys in the best position to win. And again, their defense was bad. Their defense has always been bad under Mac Brown, but offensively, you expect them to be competent, and they just weren't. Every time they tried to come back, it just felt like it was over for them. So, like I said, we'll see. We'll see what happens going forward with North Carolina because they got to go on the road in the Tobacco Road battle against Duke. So we'll see kind of how they prepare themselves for that game. But I think you should start Colin Harrell and see where you go from there. Honestly, I think that that's the best move for Mac Brown because their defense is not going to be good, and we expect their offense to be a lot better than it was. And you have one of the best running backs in the country in Amari and Hampton. And he, did his thing, but he can only do so much in the game. You've got to be able to pass eventually and put points on the board. And they just weren't able to do it because block punts, kicks, all kind of turnovers, everything you could want happened against North Carolina. So they're going to have a lot of trouble. But great win, great road win for James Madison. And again, this is a team that in the Sun Belt, they're going to have some challenges, but you get a key win like that, and eventually you're going to find yourself in talks for that playoff spot. So again, a lot of teams getting wins over Power 5 schools, especially on the road, that have happened this season. And, it's just going to be interesting to see what they're able to do as far as advancing themselves further in the Sun Belt. But North Carolina is done, at least this season. So another failed experiment for Mac Brown. And you really got to start wondering at what point do they start to say, all right, that